Thank you, Honourable Chair, Honourable Committee members. Good morning, Ms. Bahoti. How do you want to be addressed? Ms. Bahoti, Advocate Bahoti, NDPP?
I don't mind, whatever works.
Or some other?
I'm okay
Advocate
with all of the above.
Let's keep it formal. You are the National Director of Public Prosecutions, having been appointed to that office on the 1st of February 2019 by the President in
That's
terms
correct.
of 179 of the Constitution and sections 5 and 10 of the NPA Act. And you are due to retire soon.
That's correct, at the end of January 2026.
So maybe just to kick off, just describe briefly your experiences in the office, the ups and downs. Don't need to dwell too long on it.
Sure. Didn't expect this question, but I'm happy to take it. It was, well, I took office on the 1st of February 2019. I came back to South Africa having spent just short of 10 years, 9 years and 3 months at the International Criminal Court in The Hague, working in the Office of the Prosecutor as the Senior Legal Advisor to the Prosecutor of the ICC. Prior to that, I had worked in the Prosecuting Authority. This is my 40th year as a prosecutor. I was a DPP in KwaZulu-Natal, worked in various, was part of the investigation task unit that President Mandela set up in 1995 to investigate hit squads in KwaZulu-Natal. And I think before the TRC, it was perhaps the most important post-apartheid unit that was put together to investigate atrocities that were committed during the apartheid era. There were 2 prosecutors there and a team of investigators. We reported to a board. And yeah, that was 96, 97, worked there, was the DPP in KZN, headed up the Scorpions in KwaZulu-Natal for about 2 years when it was set up, and then became the DPP, went abroad and then started here in 2019 as the National Director. Came back to South Africa to take the call to serve the people of this country. And at a time when it was a difficult decision to make, given what the country had come through. But my commitment to serve brought me back home. And coming into the National Prosecuting Authority in 2019 was a difficult situation because you were trying to rebuild an entity which, like many other entities in South Africa, SARS, the DPCI, had been hollowed out in the decade or so before that. There were huge challenges in the NPA. Some of them I could just mention briefly. It's lack of capacities and capabilities, lack of, we had staff shortages, budgetary issues, skills and capacity, demotivated staff for various reasons. So there was a lot of work to be done. I came in without a leadership team, and it was about 18 months after I took office that my senior leadership was appointed in June of 2020, which was in the middle of COVID. We came out of COVID in 2021, and then that's when the rebuilding really started. And it's been, as you put it, ups and downs, a roller coaster, 5 years. But I don't know how much of detail you want me to go into, but what I can maybe say at this point is that the strategy was to turn around the NPA, to rebuild the NPA, so that it can really serve the people of this country in the way a prosecuting authority should. And so a lot of time was spent institution building, and that is the drudgery of institution building that doesn't make the headlines. The boring back office work, but is critical in any democracy to have strong institutions. And so there was a lot of time that we spent getting the capacities, capabilities, in order to do the work that we needed to. and that is to prosecute crime in this country. So we've done a lot of work, and I'm very pleased with how far the NPA has come in terms of institution building. And generally, the prosecuting authority is doing exceptionally well, but I can accept that there are areas where I had certainly hoped that at this time in my career, we would have gone further than where we are, particularly investigating and prosecuting state capture matters and some other forms of high-profile corruption. And there are various reasons for that. I shouldn't say for prosecuting them, perhaps to have, because many cases are in court, but getting through a court system to finality is something else, and I can talk more about that later if I'm asked. But that is perhaps the one maybe disappointment in terms of the things, how far we've come in the NPA. But apart from that, we've certainly built a strong NPA. There's a lot of work still to be done that the new national director will need to take on, but we've certainly set a very solid foundation to serve the people of this country in the way that a prosecuting authority should.
Thank you, Advocate. So perhaps we can start at the end in terms of your own statement. You accept that there's still urgent reforms that need to be effected within the NPA. Would you welcome the opportunity, this opportunity before the ad hoc committee to discuss some of them, given that you are now addressing the lawmakers?
Sure.
We know about the much publicized Zondo Commission, the Nugent Commission into governance in SARS, but this is the first opportunity, really, isn't it, to actually engage with lawmakers in terms of what still needs to be done, reforms that need to be effected. So perhaps discuss some of those which you deal with at the end of your statement from paragraphs 81 onwards.
Yes, thank you, Counsel. I think it's safe to say that, as I say in my affidavit, as South Africa, we are at a critical inflection point in terms of consolidating the rule of law and accountability in this country. And the allegations that have been made by General Mkhwanazi and where it has brought us, both the Madlanga Commission as well as this committee really gives us as South Africa the opportunities to consider what are the vulnerabilities in the systems. And these allegations have brought that into sharp focus in terms of the fact that there are vulnerabilities. And we have to accept that not just in South Africa, but throughout the world, institutions that are fighting for the rule of law are under serious threat and open to vulnerabilities, different types of vulnerabilities, open to compromise because of the type of the work that we do. And so this moment that we are at right now, should not be squandered. We really should use this as a catalyst for comprehensive institutional reforms that are critical to safeguard the integrity as well as the effectiveness of all the law enforcement entities across the system. As you mentioned, the National Prosecuting Authority has not been the subject of institutional review. The Zondo Commission looked at this issue for a long time. I'm aware that there was a lot of investigations that went into it. A number of, it was a time that I was not in South Africa at the time, but I'm aware that a number of prosecutors and other staff members of the NPA made statements, deposed to affidavits in the context of the Zondo Commission. But sadly, the Zondo Commission did not make any recommendations about systemic weaknesses within the criminal justice system, so that these could actually be acted upon to strengthen the system as a whole. And this is actually, it's actually, you know, the Zondo Commission did incredibly good work and looked through, you know, laid bare, you know, the extent of corruption in this country and the impact that this has had on the ordinary people of South Africa, where there's no water, sanitary, we all know this, basic infrastructure, schools, hospitals have all been impacted by corruption. And in the context of the Zondo Commission, they certainly looked at corruption and did incredibly good work, but at the end of the commission, they handed over to a criminal justice system that was seriously weakened during those years to do the work and hold people accountable. And into a system that was at that point, and still is trying to recover from that, to get to a point where we can properly deal with these matters. And so I think in that sense, I see this as an opportunity for the lawmakers to come together and carefully look at what are the weaknesses in the system and how do we actually, it's an unprecedented opportunity to look at what are the weaknesses, what are the recommendations that come out of this, and how do we, at the end of the day, strengthen the system to serve the people of this country and to deal with not just corruption, but the crime crisis that this country is facing, including organized crime and other forms of criminality, sexual and gender-based violence. So I see this as a really good opportunity for institutional reforms across the criminal justice system.
And is it dependent on whether or not the allegations, the wide-ranging allegations made by Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi on the 6th of July is or are verified or confirmed?
I certainly hope not, that it wouldn't be dependent on that. I'm hoping that the Commission and the lawmakers would take what comes out of this and then consider systemic inefficiencies and make recommendations in terms of how the system can be strengthened. One is to deal with crime, but also to address the serious vulnerabilities to potential corruption and compromise of whether it's police officers, prosecutors, members of the judiciary, etc. It's important that those kinds of recommendations come out of this.
Apologies for jumping around a bit in terms of the structure of your affidavit, but because we're on the issue of institutional reform of the NPA, and we might as well just look at the paragraph 4.1.11 of the committee's terms of reference, which refers to the alleged existence of an organized crime syndicate controlled by drug cartels as well as business people, and its infiltration of key criminal justice role players involving politicians, law enforcement, SAPs, and the NPA is mentioned. And just fast forward, you had made, even ahead of the 6th of July Mkhwanazi media statement, can you go to paragraphs 74 and 75, where you had made, there's a reference to a media interview on the 5th of June 2025 and the 6th of June 2025. Honourable Chair, those media statements or copies of it are now available in an exhibit. What's it, Talia, Delana? 11 or 12? 11. Exhibit 11, thank you. It's not attached to the statement. Advocate Bahoti, you want to just address those and contextualize them?
Yes, thank you, Council. So, Honourable Chair, I was at that point in time, during a media interview on the 5th of June, I made comments relating to infiltration of the NPA. And The next day, I then also had another media interview where I sought to clarify what I meant by that. But let me just explain to the House and Honourable Chair, Honourable Members, I speak to the House, I speak to the people of South Africa as well. And I want to explain that the reason that I made these comments at the time was that I had received confidential intelligence that there was a very concerted attempt to compromise members of the prosecuting authority. Also, concerted attempts to undermine and attack the National Director, and by individuals that are seeking to undermine the rule of law in this country. I'm not able to say who gave me this intelligence, but it was not passage talk, it was a formal meeting that I had with a particular agency, a member from a particular agency, and who gave me this information because the person thought it was important that as the head of the NPA, I should be aware of this attempts to undermine the work of the NPA. These were very serious. I was informed that the matter will be reported to the President, but I immediately informed the Minister of Justice about this and had a meeting with her when I briefed her on what I had been told. I also, at some time later after that, when the President was available, met with him and briefed him about my concerns about this. And my understanding is that there was not a, and this is my understanding, I'm not sure how these agencies work, but that there wasn't a particular tasking to look into the NPA. But I asked the President, I said to him, it's important that we understand what is going on and that there should be a tasking by our intelligence services to properly look into this matter. And that was the situation. Of course, when I made these comments, there were prosecutors in the NPA who also became concerned about this. And I hasten to add that, Chair, the majority of the prosecutors in the NPA are hardworking, committed prosecutors, and our performance will attest to this, that serve the rule of law and the people of this country and nobody else. But of course, the hardworking prosecutors were concerned about these comments that I'd made, and wondering about who do you trust in your work environment. And I said to them, we work in a work environment where we don't know who to trust. That is the reality. Even sometimes within the prosecuting authority, definitely within the SAPs and other partners, we work under conditions where you do not know who to trust. But you have to have safeguards, and we have to do the work to the best of our ability to serve the people of this country. I then I went to meet prosecutors across the country and started off in the bigger provinces of Gauteng, KwaZulu-Natal, Eastern Cape, and now I've traveled to Free State, Northern Cape, far-flung regions to meet with prosecutors, to assure them that the NPA, that as prosecutors, their commitment is to the Constitution and the rule of law. And that if there was any attempts to undermine any prosecutors, that it's not worth it, because your reputation is not worth being compromised at any point. That we serve nobody but the people of this country and the rule of law. And so I've been trying to make efforts to assure prosecutors that the work we do is important, our integrity is important, our personal reputations are important, and that we should never compromise that for anyone across the spectrum. So I hope that clarifies what happened in that context.
Just two further aspects on that. At paragraph 73, you reference receiving information also from the National Commissioner and from the National Commissioner and Lieutenant General Khumalo about a potentially corrupt
That's
prosecutor.
correct. So, Honourable Chair, I received information from the National Commissioner and General Khumalo about a particular member of the prosecuting authority who was involved in organized criminality. I am not going to mention the name of that prosecutor in this House. The matter is under investigation. I immediately, upon receiving that information, I made a formal referral of the matter to the IDAC to investigate the matter. And that's the one direct evidence, bit of evidence or information, I should say, because I did ask the National Commissioner and General Khumalo. I met with them and I said to them, please, we need more evidence so that we can look into this matter, because it's unacceptable and untenable that any member of the prosecuting authority is involved with organized criminality. That there should be a fair process. And I've said this to prosecutors. There must be a fair process, and if you're found to be compromised, you will be kicked out of the NPA. We serve the people and we fight crime. We cannot be criminals ourselves.
But what's the status of this particular prosecutor, given these serious allegations coming from high-ranking
I don't... The prosecutor is under suspension.
Okay. Okay. So it's currently not been temporarily removed from the system. Now, just while the second aspect I wanted to, just while we're at it, is you otherwise reference at paragraphs 71 and 72 some statistics with us relating to complaints or allegations of corruption, presumably less serious, but nevertheless complaints of misconduct at paragraph 71 and 72. Do you want to just briefly refer to that?
So, in terms of...
Just a moment, Honorable Skwasana.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to make a seeking clarity question, because the Advocate Bahoti is saying he can't reveal the name here. But if it's the same person who was mentioned in the media, why not revealing it here? Because in the media, if as members here of the committee, and the South African, some people knows exactly what we are talking about, who's that person we are talking about, why are we hiding it here? Thank you, Chair.
Advocate.
Chair, I will not want to hide anything from this committee. I regard it as a very important committee. But I do want to be responsible at the same time. I'm not sure who the person is that the honourable member is referring to. But even if the name is given to me now, I'm not going to make a comment about whether it is or isn't. It's not fair on the process. It's not fair on the person concerned. And this might turn out not to be true. We may not be able to verify this information. And then it destroys people's reputations and lives. And I think it will be hugely irresponsible for me at this stage, with just the bit of information that I have referred, to mention names in this House. So I would please ask the House to be understanding and not to insist that because I will not reveal the name, Chair, with all due respect.
Chair, the advocate says that he won't reveal the name, and he's not sure whether I'm talking about the same person. Do you know the name?
Chair, if I may ask the name of which person, the person in the media or the person in respect of whom the information was received?
No, the person you mentioned that is sitting at home, the prosecutor, which you said is sitting at home as we speak here.
I do.
But we are talking, you said you don't know that person.
No. It is not what she said.
Yes?
You alluded to knowing a person
The media is?
who might be on suspension because the report is in the media.
Yes.
And what we may have to check with her is whether the report that you have seen in the media and the report that she gives here are one and the same report or are two different reports.
Yes. Yes, no, I agree, Chair. And maybe if he said that, if he can say it, is it the same person, maybe she doesn't want to mention. But if it's mentioned in the media and it's the same person and he says it's a secret, for me that's a double standard. I mean, we deserve to know as well, formally so, not from the media. But if it's a different person, it's okay.
Yeah. She says for the purpose of professionalism. Honorable Malema.
No, thanks, Chair. I thought she was suggesting we must just go home if she's going to proceed like that. Because we deal with names here. What are we dealing with? What are we dealing with here? We want to know who captured the criminal justice system. And if we can't be told names and we accept that, let's go home. Especially names that are out there. There is a prosecutor, I'm just forgetting the name of, is it Johannesburg or something, Pretoria, who's suspended by the president? Joburg, Chauke. What's difficult saying something like that? What's difficult saying something like that? If we're referring to Chauke, or if there is more, we need to know. There is nothing unprofessional about that, because if we're going to proceed like that, we're becoming toothless. We cannot allow a situation where there is an allegation of a prosecutor who is being captured or infiltrated, and we are told we can't be given a name. If it was wrongly mentioned, there are recourse in South Africa where that name will be cleared. There are so many names of people being said here, people who are also in jail, people who are already on criminal trials. We get deep into those issues because we're seeking to unearth the truth. If it is true, indeed, there are people who are captured in the prosecuting authority. We want to know that. What if Chauke is wrongly accused? What if he's correctly accused? We need to come to a determination that, look, there is nothing in the NPA that suggests there is any infiltration by the drug cartel or anything of that sort. Or there is, and if we say there is, these are the issues, and these are the individuals responsible for those kind of activities in the NPA. So I don't think Honorable Skosana is being irresponsible in that regard. Thanks.
Advocate.
Thank you, Chair. I really want to emphasize, honorable members, that I do not seek to be disrespectful to this committee. I haven't even said, the members have mentioned names. I haven't even said whether it is or isn't that name that has been mentioned. And I will not, I don't want to make it difficult for this House to be able to do its work. But given that I was given, I think what at the level of intelligence, because I haven't even said it's evidence. I went back to the National Commissioner as well as General Khumalo and I said, can you please give me evidence of this? Because I need more evidence. And so I really urge that it will be hugely irresponsible of me to mention a name in this House on the basis of intelligence that I've received that may or may not be true. So I really urge honorable members to understand that I do want to help this House, but I do not want to put people's names at risk. For various reasons, you never know how people are put at risk. I mean, and we don't know whether it was a direct consequence of what happened in this House, but you know that our chief investigator of the IDAC was attacked a day or two after his name was mentioned in this house. But one might say, look, he is the chief investigator, it's not difficult, that you shouldn't really draw that conclusion. I will understand that as well. But it does put people at risk, and I do not want to be irresponsible and do that when all I've received is intelligence about the possibility that someone, well, about the fact that somebody is involved with organized criminal networks. Thank you, Chair.